at what point did you, because you started doing some stuff with Derek Trucks pretty early on, right?
Yeah, very early.
So what about what ages were you both? Because you're the same age as Derek, or is
We're the same age. He's a couple months older than me.
okay?
He's from Jacksonville, so we're separated by about 4.5, 5 hours. So Derek was out there on the scene, I would say 6 months to a year before me even. He was 11 years old,
Right.
And they did a story about Derek on Entertainment Tonight. Actually, as they did the story on 2020 about Joe, I saw that one first. But then about Derek, they did a story on Entertainment Tonight. And it was like, look at this kid. He lives in Florida. He's related to the Allman Brothers. I love the Allman Brothers. So then he was coming down to Miami to play a gig. And my parents were like, we should go. It was inspiring to me to see a kid because it was what I wanted to be doing.
Sure.
So anyways, we went to go see him play. And at that time, he was playing almost nothing but Derek, Allman Brothers songs
Sure.
and Clapton tunes and stuff like that. He had joined this band that existed before him, kind of. And, but I went right up to him, started talking to him because even though I'm relatively shy, Derek is extremely shy. So I was more outgoing than Derek. And I walked right up and I introduced myself. And so he was playing there. This is a true story. He was playing there 2 nights, Friday and Saturday night. But didn't know him at all. We're 12 years old. And we end up talking the whole night. And because he's playing there the next night, he suggests, why don't we have a sleepover? I look at my parents, and he looks at his dad who's with him, and it was like, why the hell not? First night I ever met him, he slept at my house. He stayed up all night long. I had a guitar with a Floyd Rose. I've told this story before. We tried to change the strings on this guitar with the Floyd Rose, and neither one of us could figure it out. I probably still can't figure it out, to be honest. But that was the beginning of our friendship, and a few months later, I joined that band and started gigging. And flash forward to this club in Fort Lauderdale called Cheers. It had 2 stages, and Derek would come down once a month from Jacksonville to play at this club. And he'd play one stage, I'd play the other. We would each play 4 sets until 4 in the morning, alternating sets.
Oh my God.
13-year-olds.
Well, I'll tell you what, that'll get your 10,000 hours in though, quick.
Man, I tell this to people who ask me all the time about improv and vocabulary. Oh, where'd you get all that vocabulary and stamina and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's where, those gigs don't exist anymore for coming up people where you're forced to solo 3 hours a night.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's where it came from. Absolutely.
So at what point did you move out to California? Did you go to college, or did you just right after high school start gigging, or what was your path kind of after that?
No, I didn't go to college, much to the chagrin of my grandparents.
I understand.
I knew what I wanted, just like I know you did. And I was working already, so it was like we had done my first tour of the States in between my junior and senior year of high school. So I was used to touring already, and that's what I wanted. So the second I graduated, we went straight in the van and started, touring the States. So that lasted from I graduated at 17. Between then and 22, a good 5 years, that's all I did was make records and tour the States. And at 22, I got just like really frustrated with the state of things, which sounds ridiculous for a 22-year-old. But I had been doing it almost 10 years at that point. And I had seen some of my other friends like Derek, although he wasn't really broken through then yet, but some other friends that I made along the way, like Kenny Wayne and Johnny Lang and other guys, start to have some success. And I was still plugging away. And then I met my wife, and I wanted to be a grown-up and pay my bills. And the only option for me was make a living as a guitar player. And LA seemed the right move for me, and it was a true shot in the dark. But we got married in June of 2002, and then July 1st, we hopped in a van and drove all the way to California.
To Los Angeles.
When I moved to LA, the goal was not to do my own thing. It was to, make a living by any means necessary as a guitar player. So at first it was all sideman work and session work, mostly touring. I was touring a lot as a sideman with different, styles of music, mostly pop stuff, and doing sessions. And that was really enjoyable. And I think it's, really responsible for my growth as a musician into what I am now. But yeah, over the last 18 years, halfway through, it started to pivot back into a lot of people were actually like actively asking me to release records again and do things and go on the road and play gigs. And it just kind of happened. So now mostly I only do my own thing or I work here in my studio. And now I'm producing quite a lot of records. And that's been an interesting turn. I wasn't expecting it.
Yes. So when you tour with your own band, like when you're going to go over to Europe, who do you use as your band?
Yes. I don't know. I mean, this is my biggest frustration in all the land is who's in my band? Like, do I have a band? And, I have my brothers and my best friends. And, being in LA, I've played with some of the greatest musicians on the planet. But every time I've gone on the road in the last 10 years, there has been a different lineup. I can't think of one tour that was the same ever. And now it's, half the time I'm using musicians based in the countries that I'm going to because maybe it's my first time going to Australia and they can't afford to, well, they can, but I can't afford to go and make money if I bring people with me. So, it's, it's a decision. That's an extreme frustration. And by far the biggest hurdle that I'm trying to clear is how do I get it to where not only can I play with the same guys, it's the guys that really want to be there.
Right, exactly.
There's enough money that they're smiling to be there and we're happy. It doesn't have to be extreme amount of money, but just enough for everybody to be like, this is where I want to be. I really want to get there. I want to have my band,